When I do these presentations, I always like to get a raise of hands. Who has sold cloud? I don't care how small or how large the deal was. So about half. Who wants to sell cloud? Still some hands that are not raised. All right, well, hopefully we'll convince you otherwise over the next few minutes. When I got my start in this business, it was with a company right walking distance to here, Citrix, right down the block. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. And day one of working at Citrix, my boss calls me into the office and he said, "Jeff, now that you're working for Citrix, I want you to know that selling cloud isn't a technical sale." And I'm sure I rolled my eyes and probably said, "Yeah, right." And then he said, "I want you to come back next Monday and let me know what selling cloud is all about." So I got on the phones, made a couple of appointments, and next Monday went into Scott's office, and it hit me. And years later, I firmly, and I think anyone that has successfully sold cloud would tell you that it is not a technical sale. It's a business discussion, right? It's a different way of doing business. Now, certainly IT, on their side, on the client side or the prospect side, will get involved in the sales process. But the one that writes the check is the business owner, the CEO, or the CFO. CTO, CIO, again, they're an influencer. So keep that in mind. And it's something that we at Navisite stress over and over and over again. Make sure you get in front of the decision makers. IT may have concerns. Well, geez, if you're trying to move our company to the cloud, might be looking to put me out of a job. And that's not the case, and we could talk about that later on. But as well as the previous presentation, I like to keep things interactive. I'd hate to be hearing my own voice the whole time here. So please, if you have any questions, just stop me. So as you have heard, Navisite is a part of Charter Communications. One thing that I'll mention is we have 20 years of experience. We started out 20 years ago. We're based in Andover, Massachusetts, about 25 miles north of Boston. And at that time, Navisite was a MSP, a managed service provider, break-fix type company. And over the years, we have evolved, and at this point, Navisite would certainly be considered a cloud provider. And we offer a number of different cloud technologies. I'll get into it later on in the presentation. Little bit of history. We have grown ourselves, Navisite. We're just under about 1,000 employees. Majority of them are in Andover as well as overseas. Myself, I'm local here. I live in the Coral Springs area. So I am more than happy to join any of you on a sales call. It doesn't take any time for me to get from Coral Springs to anywhere in Broward, Dade, or Palm Beach County. I do spend a good amount of time on the road in other states. I cover the Southeast, which is Georgia, Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi. Over the years, Navisite's gone through a couple of acquisitions. One was 6 years ago. Time Warner acquired Navisite. And then about a year and a half ago, Charter Communications, which is the second largest cable company to some company called Comcast, acquired us along with Navisite, along with Time Warner, as well as Bright House. And those of you that might be familiar with Bright House in the Tampa, Orlando area, we're now one big happy family. So even though our division is Navisite, we are part of Spectrum Enterprise, which is really the rebrand of Charter Communications. And some of you I'm sure are familiar, or if not all of you, with Spectrum. So that's on the connectivity side. We're on the managed cloud side. So we have a number of different cloud technologies, everything from Office 365 to infrastructure, desktop, disaster recovery as a service. We do a lot of application hosting. Kevin had mentioned we do a lot of work with Oracle, SAP, Microsoft Dynamics. So you have a lot of mid-size and enterprise clients that are looking to move to the cloud and looking for expertise as well as management of those applications. That's really very much in our wheelhouse. As I mentioned before, 20 years of experience, a ton of employees on the Navisite side. About 600 plus of our 1,000 employees are on the support and engineering side. So one of the things that we bring to the table is when you as a partner or one of your customers calls us up at an 800 number, they're getting a live voice 24/7 by 365. We don't outsource to a third-party company. And with 600 plus of our 1,000 employees or so on the engineering and support side, I think you understand we're a very serious player when it comes time for service and support. We have a number of data centers both here in the States and abroad. We don't have any data centers here in the Southeast, but if we're talking about, let's say, disaster recovery as a service and a Hurricane Irma hits, most companies would much prefer that data center be far away. So should electricity go out or internet access go out here in South Florida, I know that my data is running successfully, whether it be in Andover, Massachusetts, or Chicago, or Santa Clara, California. So again, we have a number of data centers both here in the States. We also have 2 over in the UK. Navisite is also very, very strategic with Microsoft. And I'll get into Office 365 here in a few minutes, but we also have the ability to run in Microsoft Azure data centers. So that includes 8 of our own data centers, with 6 here in the States, 2 abroad, and 20 additional Microsoft data centers running on Azure. So a real big push for our company moving to Azure. We have our own cloud platform, which is called Navisite Cloud Director, but at the same time, we're pushing almost everything over to Azure.
Is it because of you using it as a recovery site, or just as a, just because of the new movement with Microsoft and the new programs?
Yep, the latter.
Incentively, it's just financially makes a lot more sense right now.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Look, we would love to have 25, 30 data centers of our own, right, scattered around the world, but it makes sense for us to coexist with Microsoft. They're not going anywhere, we're not going anywhere, and so that's the direction. But good question. So just to give you an idea, some of our data centers here in the States, and then 2 in the UK as well. One of the real differences between Navisite as well as our competitors, and obviously we have competitors, and if the question comes up, who is some of your competitors, I'll be more than happy to talk about that very freely. But one of the major differences is these are Navisite-owned data centers. Okay, we're not co-locating in like a QTS in Atlanta, okay, or a Terramark Verizon. These are Navisite built-to-spec data centers around the U.S. and abroad. And we'll continue to, in essence, build to spec if the need arises. So a real differentiator. From a cost standpoint, obviously, and those fans are very welcome, I think. So as long as they're on, they're off right now. But
yeah, I was just going to turn it back on in a minute.
Great. I'll talk louder if I need to, but I think we all would appreciate that. Yeah, is the mic working? Yeah, okay.
Well, that mic goes to the audience, so you'd have to stand back there.
Let's do that. Is that better? Yeah. Should have said something. That's all right. So again, a view of our data centers here. Whoops. And for the most part, what we look at, and this is really just industry terminology here, or what Gartner and 451 Research and Microsoft, Citrix, and other companies are looking at, is IT is changing. Okay, don't think for a second that a lot of your customers are wanting to move to the cloud and do that themselves. Okay, the example I have used for years is, let's say I'm a dental office of 50 people, okay, or a medical office of a couple of hundred people. What am I good at? Well, if I'm a dental office, I'm good at filling cavities, root canals, teeth whitening, braces on bratty kids. What am I not good at? I'm not good at IT. So if I'm sitting in your shoes, my message to Dr. Smith, who owns that dental office, is, Dr. Smith, you focus on your core competency, which is teeth, and I'm going to focus on our core competency, which is IT, which includes cloud. So, by the raise of hands that we had earlier in the session, majority of you definitely want to be in the cloud. And I think if you surveyed your clients and your prospects, they too would like to be in the cloud. They just don't know what exactly that means. Okay, and so that's why Navisite, and with your expertise and our expertise, hopefully we'll message that accordingly and be able to move a lot of your clients, a lot of your prospects to the cloud. So again, I've already mentioned this. We have a number of certifications. We're a gold partner with Microsoft, gold partner with VMware. VMware is what we use for our hypervisor. So Microsoft, we're a gold partner. We run on Cisco and NetApp as well. So, very much tier 3 data centers, very safe and secure. Anyone that says, and in fact, Citrix went out with a survey to 2,500 or so of their partners last year. And the #1 reason why companies are moving to the cloud is security. So, you know, there's not a day that goes by, and, you know, we've heard what happened with HBO a couple of weeks ago. You know, what's going on, and I'm drawing a blank as I stand here. Who else was?
Erie Hospital.
I'm sorry?
Erie Hospital.
Equifax, thank you. That sounds a little fishy. I think that was a little bit of a inside job going on there. But you think about all these large companies and ransomware attacks, right? And I'm not sitting here or standing here and saying, look, we're immune to it. Can we get hit at 1 o'clock this afternoon and be taken down? Absolutely, positively, yes. Okay, but our core competency is security. And that's really what separates us from a lot of companies looking to, in essence, host themselves, okay, whether it be on-prem or, you know, co-locate in another facility. Our core competency is security, security, security. We also, and this next slide will show it, we are HIPAA PCI compliant. PCI is payment card interchange, which covers the financial services industry. HIPAA, I'm sure you all know, is for the healthcare industry. We have other certifications as well. One of the other reasons why we partnered with Microsoft is a lot of their Azure, or all of their Azure data centers, have additional certifications as well, especially for the government, so on and so forth. So again, the message is, let us focus, and us meaning you and us, hopefully, you know, focus on our core competency, which is security and infrastructure and virtualization, and allow that client to focus on their core competency. Any questions so far? So again, what we're looking to do is bring expertise, you know, to the table. Our service level agreements are 99.49s. We will always strive to be 100% up and running. All of our partners, if we experience any downtime, an alert goes out not only to the Navisite staff, but to our partners as well. So you will know, God forbid, if something should happen, if a server is down in Oak Brook, Illinois, you will be notified immediately. We're not a reactive company, we're a proactive company. And I think that, you know, at the end of the day, that's the kind of company that you want to work with. A couple of interesting statistics. 80% of IT or CEOs believe that IT innovation will lead to competitive advantage. And I got my start on the internet working about 20 years ago for a company called Verio. Some of you may be familiar with Verio, and it quickly became the largest hosting company in the world, all through acquisition. And at Verio, we began in our early stages of selling products and services. And when we got acquired by Verio, I was working for a small company in Napa called Tabnet, but when we got acquired, Verio came in and changed the whole mindset. And the whole focus was on selling to small, mid-sized companies. Today, instead of selling products and services, what clients are looking for is solutions, right? They may not know exactly what they need. And that's where you and I come in and work together and hopefully create an opportunity that we can both capitalize in. And the benefit is, you know, in anything that we sell, it's all monthly recurring revenue. So, you know, our model is, if you have an opportunity, we're not looking for you to sell. You'd contact me, email me, call me, whatever the case might be. Myself and my team, I have a couple of solution architects as well that work with me. And we'll run a discovery call, we'll do a technical deep dive, we'll schedule a WebEx, and if it's a good size opportunity, we'll do a face-to-face. So whatever it takes in order to make you successful is really what what our mission is. So I'd like to say that what Navisite is looking to become is an extension of your sales team. So interesting stat. Companies using the cloud grow 19.3% faster than their competitors. You know, whether companies realize it or not, they're all using the cloud, right? Maybe not, you know, virtualizing their applications or their infrastructure, but, you know, if they have a personal email account, whether it's through Gmail or Yahoo, they're on Facebook, they're on LinkedIn, obviously all these applications are cloud enabled, right? We've all been using them for years and years and years. So the whole concept of moving to the cloud should hopefully become a much easier conversation, and it has become a much easier conversation. But one thing that Kevin said, and he is spot on, is cloud is not a quick slam bam, thank you ma'am type of sale. It isn't. And the reason is because today in 2017, it is not a commodity. Now, I hope I don't ruffle any feathers, but the telco space is a commodity, right? I give an example. So I was at a trade show last year and someone said, you know where cloud is? And I said, what's that? And he said, cloud is where VoIP was maybe 5-6 years ago, where if a company needed 100 people to be running voice over IP, that technical person was on the phone with Vonage or whomever, one of you guys, right? And had a whole lot of questions, needed their hand held. Well, that's where cloud is today. So over the next few years, I am very confident, and companies like Gartner and 451 Research will confirm it, that the cloud business is booming. It's just not moving as quickly as we would all like to see on a daily basis. But those big deals that are 5 figures and 6 figures are starting to roll in, certainly almost on a weekly basis for Navisite. But we as well, welcome the smaller opportunities. So just keep, food for thought. So a couple of numbers. I'm not going to go into any of this with any being specific on it. But again, the growth in cloud is tremendous, and it really is creating a need, for that customer. Again, the majority of companies today, and I'll shoot this out as a question. What percentage of companies in 2017 have a disaster recovery plan? Don't raise your hand, just blurt out some numbers. 30? 3. What, 5? 35. 5? Couple from this side? 10? Anyone? This table's been quiet. 20. All right. And this number is in Navisite. It's coming from Gartner. 30 to 40% of companies. So I think Kevin said 35. He's right in there, but I gave him the answer earlier. He's not that. 30 to 40% of companies today in 2017 have a disaster recovery plan. And I've been on the phone with a lot of them. All right. And I asked the question, why? Why aren't you concerned with it?
Is that a probably enterprise level?
No, it's mostly small, mid-sized business, SMB. The enterprise, they do have a disaster recovery plan. But the small, mid-sized business, and we'll qualify that companies that are under 500 employees, 30 to 40% do. Let's turn that around. That means 60 to 70% do not. And that's all of our opportunity, right? And when I'm on the phone with partners and I'm on the phone presenting to clients, and I'll say, why not? The number one response is, what's going to happen to me? I'm sitting here in Fort Lauderdale or Boca Raton or Wheeling, West Virginia. What's going to happen? We all know that we're, ground zero for hurricanes here. But I don't care where in the U.S. or anywhere in the world that someone is based, and they're thinking that disaster recovery just equates to a natural disaster, a hurricane, tornado, earthquake. The number one issue that they should be concerned about is being hacked, right? Whether it's an ex-employee, someone in Russia, someone in Brooklyn, whatever the case might be, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't be reading about it all that much, as much as we do. So when I'm out there training my partners, one of the analogies that I use is disaster recovery as a service in Office 365, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. That's the low-hanging fruit. That's the Trojan horse. Okay, so when a customer says, or you go to a customer, have you thought about the cloud? I've thought about it, but I'm not sure I'm ready to jump right in the water. Is there a way for me to kind of dip my toes and kind of test this? Your immediate response is absolutely, positively yes. And we'll talk about Office 365 in a few minutes. Disaster recovery as a service is another option. And the way that I train my partners to sell disaster recovery as a service, it's like an insurance policy. And I know everyone's going to raise their hands when I ask this question. How many of you have medical, dental, life insurance, homeowners, rental, auto insurance? Everyone. Why? Give me someone blurt out, why do you have insurance? Just in case. Now, if I'm selling, if I'm going into ABC company, and I know I have found out through my phone call that they don't have any kind of disaster recovery plan, I'll turn it around. I'll say, Miss Smith, you have auto, you have homeowners, you have life insurance? Yeah. Why? Just in case something happens to me or my family. I'll turn that around and I'll say, Mrs. Smith, why don't you treat your business with the same respect? I mean, can you afford to be down for a couple of hours, couple of days, couple of weeks, couple of months? I guarantee the numbers are just coming out with what happened with the hurricane in Houston, with so many companies absolutely flooded. So many companies are out of business, right? They don't need to be, because they were hosting everything on-prem, right? Everything is in that flooded building. Whereas if they moved to the cloud and had a whole disaster recovery or a business continuity plan in place, and we actually have wonderful tools with a company called Zerto, a great solution, let's work together. But it's a way to how to market disaster recovery as a service. So that number of 60 or 70% of companies that aren't doing anything for disaster recovery as a service, position it like an insurance policy, because that's basically what it is. Any questions? Office 365. How many people in the room use Office 365? Same number of people that raised their hand. Love it compared to what you were doing before with Office?
I do.
Anyone have any negatives to it? I mean, you do.
All the clients that we work with are asking, wait, I have to buy it every year or every month. And we explain, yes. So their response is, why? Why can't I just hold on to my 2010? So the standard, and I'm Microsoft certified as a systems admin, is very simple. You're getting new updates, new this, new that. The reality was in 1999, 2000, Microsoft planned on having a leasing of some of their software. This goes back 17 years when I was with the larger organization. We knew it.
Mm-hmm.
It was only a matter of time.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty soon, you're going to see that with the operating systems.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty soon, all of a sudden, you're going to realize, I have to pay to use my computer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what a lot of the clients are seeing.
Mm-hmm.
They don't understand that the small business server is no longer a reality, because you have to actually go out and you can find an Exchange server package to put together. And then they realize, well, wait, maybe I have to maintain it every year, the hardware. So it's cost-benefit analysis.
Mm-hmm.
But they still don't want to pay every month for the privilege of using exactly that. So many of them are looking at Google
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and some of the other options. So,
Right.
you know,
I'm sorry, say.
It's not a service. Now it's a service, not a license. As before.
Yep. I mean, it's the direction that, I mean, look, Microsoft was pretty slow to get to the cloud, let's face it, right? And that's why they've had Ballmer is probably out, right? I think most would probably agree, because he considered Microsoft an OS company, right? And OS resided on your laptop or your desktop. But they now have changed. I mean, give them credit. Give them credit. Amazon, I mean, our competitor, but give them credit. Amazon is a true cloud company. So, the Microsoft Office 365 right now, anyone venture a guess what percentage of companies are using O365?
25.
About 10%. 10%.
Well,
Okay.
that will change as soon as they force a new version of the Office and they discontinue support.
It's like, just when they discontinue support of XP or,
Go to 50 to 60%.
of course. So what is that going to mean for companies like you? It's a gold mine. Get in the game. Okay, Office 365, I'm not ever going to use the word easy, because selling cloud isn't easy. Okay, it's a challenge. It's getting easier because more and more companies are wanting to move there. Okay, but what small, mid-sized customers are looking for, and I think you guys know this as well as I do, they're looking at you as a kind of a one-stop shop, right? Anything telco, I'm dealing with you. Well, why not broaden your horizons, right? If you're offering cloud and you're not having to recreate a whole new wheel, you're just partnering with Navisite, and Jeff and his team are running that discovery call or doing that technical deep dive and closing the sale, Your only responsibility, other than to open up an opportunity and share it with us, is to go to that mailbox and see that check that TCG is sending you on a monthly basis. Not to minimize it, but that's basically what it comes down to. I and my team will never call you and say, what do you have in the pipeline? What have you sold for us last month? What are you projecting in the next 60 days? Okay? So again, think of us as an extension of your team. The beauty of Microsoft Office 365 is, you're right, it's going to absolutely explode. I don't think Microsoft would be the first ones to say they haven't realized that explosion, but they will. And why not, partake in that opportunity? The licensing for Office 365, excuse me, if we were sitting in the office and I have, a desktop, that's where all my work takes place. If I'm home and I wanted to work on that PowerPoint that I was working on in my office, I'm in tough shape, right? I have to go to my desktop tomorrow morning. Well, the way licensing works in O365 is I can use it on, up 5, 6 different devices. So I could, run that Office 365 on my Apple iPad or on my Android or whatever the case might be. So one of the, as more and more people work remote, or more and more people are mobile in our society, applications and desktops follow them, okay? I myself, I work remote out of my home, but not for a second do I think that I have the same wants, needs, and desires as someone in my headquarters up in Andover, Massachusetts, right? I don't have face-to-face, but I have, Skype for Business, so I do video conferencing on an everyday basis. I can't shake someone's hand, but I have all the tools that all my fellow associates up in Andover do. So again, the cloud it's sexy technology. It's also taking a word back from the 90s. How many people that have been in the internet or been in the space for 2 decades like I have used the word sticky many, many years ago? And it's now coming back, because unless Navisite, pardon my French, F's up, okay, you have that relationship for a long, long time. And one thing that Navisite brings to the table is being able to manage Microsoft Office 365. Okay, we can handle the migration, the archiving, so on and so forth. That's our bread and butter. That's where we really excel. And I'll tell you,
guys do the migration yourself?
100%, 100%. We have we have a very large team of over 100 employees that handle.
What's the biggest hurdle in the whole thing?
100% correct.
The migration change to this.
Yep.
I mean, we use Skype.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. That's the biggest thing. It's something.
That is our bread and butter, and that's where the biggest opportunity is. So, good news and bad news on selling Office 365. I don't want to paint a false picture. The good news for the client, it's a low entry point. I mean, our pricing starts, and our pricing is controlled by Microsoft. So, our hands are really tied. So whether you, work directly with Microsoft or, directly through Navisite, doesn't make much of a difference. But our pricing starts at $4 per month per user for Office 365. It goes up to about $21 or $22 per month per user. So you might be saying, well, geez, that's not a whole lot of money in my pocket. And you're right. You're absolutely right, okay? But again, Microsoft Office 365, as well as disaster recovery as a service, I mentioned before, those are the Trojan horses, okay? So the way the cloud works is sell Office 365, and within 2-3 months, you better be on the phone with that client and say, hey, John, I know I sold you Office 365 back in September. I'd love to talk with you about maybe virtualizing infrastructure or applications or desktops, and I'd love to schedule a call back with Jeff and myself and get you on a call. Question?
And more importantly, it's a way to make residual commissions by selling Office 365, which in our TCG portfolio, we don't have a ton of options to do so. So keep that in mind as well.
Real good point. Thanks, Kevin. But yeah, so it's not an easy sale, but that is a sale that does happen at a much more rapid pace than selling virtual desktops or infrastructure as a service. So keep that in mind. A couple of things. How am I doing for time? I know everyone's hungry and thirsty, but
31 minutes.
okay. 5-10 minutes. I'm going to rush through this, but I want to make sure that if there are any questions. And I'm not going to read each bullet point here, but again, you are the industry expert. You meaning you and I are the industry experts. we don't have the relationships that you all do with your clients or your prospects. Bring us into those relationships. Bring us into those partnerships if you're also working through agents yourselves. And that's really the name of the game. At Navisite, how do we win? And I'm going to get to how TCG and your sub-agents win. Sell the future, okay? This is where the future, this is where the present is, this is where the future is going, okay? Cloud isn't going the way, some of you are old enough to remember maybe CB radios, which was a fad in the late 70s, right? Well, cloud is here to stay, and this is more and more the opportunity where companies are seeing. And again, pitch our experience with Navisite. We've been at this game for 20 years. We're part of Spectrum Enterprise, okay? Before I came to Navisite, I worked for a cloud provider out of Atlanta, a small company, kind of a boutique cloud provider. And I was shocked all of a sudden. I woke up, got a phone call from my boss and saying, Jeff, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we were acquired. And you and I and our whole team are out of work. That's happening in the cloud business, which was, predictable. The likelihood of someone coming in and gobbling up Spectrum Enterprise when our revenues are, multi-billions is slim and none. Can it happen? Yes. Is it likely? No. The likelihood of us coming in and maybe gobbling up a company or two is much more likely. And I could tell you, because again, it's not a perfect world, did we experience hiccups when Time Warner acquired Navisite? Answer is absolutely, positively yes. Okay, we don't want to experience that ever again. Okay, so, but we know other cloud companies, so I know for a fact that the company that acquired my previous company had a number of hiccups. That's to be expected. But if I'm a client, I don't want to hear that excuse. Okay, so again, our experience, I think, draws very, very well in that. How TCG and your partners, benefit. We give you access to what we call proximity. It's a partner portal. We'll take you through a 20-minute, 30-minute WebEx and train you on it. There are videos that take you through it on YouTube, so on and so forth. But it's a single pane of glass, so you can act as an administrator for all your clients, okay, and generate reports, or we can manage that on your behalf. Okay, so it gives you total control, or you can give Navisite that control. And it is a very intuitive type portal. We have another portal which provides a lot of our marketing information, PDFs, case studies, white papers, PowerPoints, recorded webinars, so on and so forth. So if you're thinking, boy, this sounds good, I like Jeff's presentation, but man, where do we start in providing and developing content for cloud? Stop, okay? We provide all that content. You could slap your brand, your look and feel, but use the content, and we're continually updating it. So we have another partner portal, which we call SOS. It's available in the App Store. If I had my phone, it's on the desk, but you have it on your phone, and I can, in essence, download a PDF for virtual desktops and send it off 1, 2, 3. So all of that content is developed by Navisite. It's available for all our partners. You can put your brand on it and go to market very, very quickly in selling cloud. The key part is you're a subject matter expert, or will become a subject matter expert with our help. Okay, we're not, again, asking you to sell. All, again, we're asking for you to do is bring us into potential opportunities that you have for selling different cloud technologies. Real briefly, not going to get into any detail, but again, we talked about the low-hanging fruit, or the Trojan horse, disaster recovery as a service, Microsoft Office 365. Both low-end or low-revenue numbers. It's not going to break the bank for any company. The upsell, the beauty of cloud is there's always an upsell or a cross-sell opportunity, like I spoke about before. So virtual desktops, or what people call DaaS, desktop as a service, is a booming, booming part of our business. The ability for my desktop that's sitting in my office here in Fort Lauderdale, I could be on a plane in Paris, to Paris, have internet connection, okay, and be able to access my complete desktop, all my applications that might be sitting in the cloud, or my applications that are sitting on my local desktop, whatever the case might be. So desktop as a service is a big, fast-growing part of the business. Infrastructure as a service. More and more companies, are moving to what's called IaaS, infrastructure as a service. So we have roughly about 20, 22 different cloud technologies. 5 or 6 are real primary. But again, we want to consider ourselves very much of a one-stop shop for anything cloud. Our partner philosophy, and this, I would be on the front lines, but like I said, I have a whole team that backs me up from the sales, from the technical side, from the marketing side. If you have opportunities like we're doing today, a lunch and learn, I'll be in Birmingham in a couple of weeks. I met with a partner there 2 weeks ago, and they have 600 clients in and around Birmingham. Many of them aren't doing anything in the cloud. And he goes, man, I would love to do a lunch and learn at one of these restaurants. I guarantee we'll have 50, 60 prospects and clients sitting in the chairs. I said, great, let's set up the time. So we have. If you guys also feel that you have traction where I can come in and do a similar type presentation, I'm more than happy to. So please keep that in mind. And again, it's not just Jeff Meltzer. I'm backed up by a very large team at Charter. The process is, you have an opportunity, okay, looking from left to right, new sales lead. You have, Dr. Smith's dental office, okay. You're going to want to partner with Navisite, register that lead that Kevin talked about. That protects you. So if another partner is trying to contact and work with Dr. Smith's dental office in Pompano Beach, won't be allowed to because there you are already and you've registered the account. Our team will then take over. Again, like I talked about, our ability to sell cloud, to service cloud, and to support cloud. At that point, you're free and easy just to run to your mailbox on a monthly basis and watch that CCG check just increase with monthly recurring revenue. Doesn't sound like a difficult formula, and it really isn't, and it's something we've been doing for a number of years. I talked briefly before about SOS, which is our partner portal, so I won't go into that at all. And the products that are moving the needle, again, we talked about Office 365, which includes SharePoint, Skype for Business, OneDrive. So it's not just, PowerPoint, Excel, Word, and Outlook. It's the whole kit and caboodle, and everything is virtualized. We as a company use Skype for Business, so if you have a company that has remote workers, highly recommend Skype for Business. It includes video conferencing and a whole lot of other tools, and I couldn't think of living without it. Again, I'm happy to forward this presentation to anyone that requested. I have business cards over here, so please do take. Our approach is white glove, okay? Navisite here in the Southeast, no one knows about us, okay? I know that. I know it when I took the position, okay? More and more companies probably will become familiar with Navisite, but most everyone is familiar with Spectrum Enterprise. And so, yes, Navisite is a good-sized company, but again, we're playing off of Spectrum Enterprise, and my paycheck, my benefits all come from Spectrum. They don't come from Navisite. So perhaps at one point, Navisite name will go away and we'll all be Spectrum Enterprise. But we are basically one company at this point.
How in depth do you get with the end user? Because you are part of the change management and adoption?
Yeah, very much so. So, typically what happens is my partners will say, look, I'd like you to get on a discovery call. I think John Smith has shown interest in Office 365. He'll make the introduction via an email. We'll set up a call. We'll set up a WebEx and take John and his team, through, a discovery call, finding out where their pain is, where they want to be. But yeah, in essence, that customer.
We're talking from the adoption perspective and change management afterwards. That's some of the main things that, we are a cloud company, so one of our biggest pains are, first of all, the initial part of it, that is the transition, okay? And second of all, how are we going to adopt, how are we going to do the change management? That's where most of my resources go.
I'm not sure I'm answering your question, but I've been in the situation a number of times where you've been in the situation, I am sure. IT person is shooting bullets at you because they're thinking that you're there, and once the company deploys cloud, they're going to be out of a job, right? And the message is, and I've been in this conversation a ton of times, is no, you're not going to be out of a job. What we're looking to do is take over all that administrative BS that you do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, profiles, usernames, passwords. We're going to put that on our shoulders. And you know what that's going to do to you, Mr. or Miss IT manager? That's going to actually allow you to work on projects that are going to generate revenue for your hospital. And more companies are moving in that direction. They're not looking to displace an employee, but what they're looking to do is, hopefully make that person more valuable by taking away the administrative IT work and allowing them to work on projects that are actually generating revenue for the company. That's the kind of pitch that will be successful moving forward, because I've had darts shot at me, and you have too. I see your reaction, because you're the enemy. But you need to actually win them over, because again, they may not be the ones that are making the final decision, but they will influence that CEO, CFO, or business owner at the end of the day. Again, some detail on our migration plans, and that's pretty much it. You see another name down below, Doug Crocker. Doug works on the Spectrum side. He's out of Charlotte. I have another associate gentleman named Preston up in Orlando. So if any of you are looking for any traction with Spectrum Enterprise, please, I'm more than happy to make introductions on that side of the business as well. I'm focused on cloud, 100% of my efforts, but I work very, very closely with a lot of the Spectrum people, especially on the, in the Southeast where I'm based. So any questions before I wrap it up and we hit the buffet? I thank you very much. I do have a couple of giveaways.